Rated OBS. All the video settings are grayed out, even under advanced settings. This is weird. It never upgrade beforehand. Yeah. Yes, when has that ever stopped us? I think we're pretty much married to doing it live. All right. Well, how about this? I will take the stream down to 3,000 kilobytes per second. I'll have it and then I'll start streaming again. Oh, and we immediately go into the red. All right, Twitch should be back up. Are we lagging? It's streaming at 8K? It can't stream at 8K. Okay, is the stream any better? No lag? 15 second. Okay, well I reduced the bit rate to 3,000. All right, we'll figure out what's going on. I'll do some streamer tests this week. It's been a while. We have a new video card. Well, relatively new. Last Christmas got a 4080. All right. Well, welcome back to Chief Chat. Let's get a show of hands here. Who's hasn't been here before? Do we have all the usual crowd? Yeah, Whisper, we know you're a veteran. Okay, I can't tell who's trolling now. Okay, there are a couple new ones. All right, so since you guys are new, let me just go over what Chief Chat is. Chief Chat is where we talk about Ember, we talk about the game, we talk about what we're working on, and we update you guys a little bit about it. And we haven't done one in a while. We haven't done one in a while because we have been focusing on our daily updates. Like most of our efforts gone into our no zero day updates, which you can find in our Discord channel under the Ember server under no zero days. You will see that we post our work daily, everything we do. And we do this consistently Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday is a rest day. And we basically post what the team's working on. And what we've been doing is if you remember where the demo leaves off, if you're a backer and you download the demo of the game right now, you get current working builds. This is like a slice of our development. And the last one, we were in a sort of white box phase where we had the medium omni frame. You could fly around, and um, you could call down a thumper encounter. I don't know if we left that in. It's been a while. But if you called down the thumper encounter, you would immediately hit lag, and it's got our old models in there and it has boxes for some enemies, and it really wasn't where we wanted it to be, and we really wanted more performance out of it as well, and we were hitting some pretty major obstacles with that whenever you call down thumper. If you have multiple players, it lags Greyhammer, because then we increase the spawn rate, and that's when you hit the lag. So we sort of like, and then we had the another issue where we use a third party, a series. We use like 3 third party plugins to serve as the animation network for our characters. All right, we had one for the players, we had like one for the thumper and one for the Tsihu. And then the boxes were the Iranas. They didn't really need animation. So we had these 3 plugins, and like 2 of them are discontinued. Like the one we use for the main character ALS is no longer supported. The programmer actually ended up going to Epic and working for Epic, but it's no longer supported. And the most recent version that's out there doesn't have great networking support. Well, being able to kind of put us into a bind. And so we were having some performance issues. We were having some, and we wanted to make sure that the game could run very well on low end systems. And we were having the problem with our plugins. First, we had one of them for sure discontinued and not multiplayer friendly, and 3 different plugins for animation systems, and they weren't delivering great results. We couldn't get the Sihu to move like we wanted them to. We couldn't get the Thumper to turn like we wanted him to. And so we were kind of stuck for a while until happened upon a very talented animation programmer. And I said, "Hey, we have these issues. Can you possibly help us with it?" And he said, "Nah." He said, "Nah, I'm not. I'm busy." And this was a while ago. And he's like, and but it turns out that eventually I was keeping track of him, and he finally said, "Hey, I'm finally ready to do some work." And I'm like, "Hey, that's great. Why don't we sign you up and get you on board?" And so that has been fantastic because as soon as he got on board, which is about 3 months ago, we started to create our own animation network that we have full control over. It's never going to be discontinued, it's never going to be unsupported, and we're going to have one system that drives things for the player and one system that drives things for the NPCs, and we're able to do some things that will allow us to increase performance. So this was a huge accelerant for the project. We kind of stuck on how do we do a thumper encounter if we can't animate our enemies properly. We need more swarmers on the screen. How can we get more swarmers on the screen when we're already starting to tank as soon as we spawn 3 waves of them? 3 waves of 6 creatures each. And so, if you follow our No Zero updates, our entire focus has really been on what you do in the game, which is like playable and playable characters and enemies. So we got the new player animation system up and running using some of the techniques from Unreal Engine 5, which allows us to do things like animate. I'm going to try to explain this in simplest terms possible. If you guys want the details, No Zero Day does have more technical details. But what Unreal 5 does is it supports characters basically being more multi-threaded. So if you have more CPUs, it can handle more players. And the way it does that is it's due to the nature of how it updates the information for each player that needs to be animated. And you can do them all the players at once instead of having to do them one at a time. Before you had to line them up. So if you had 100 players, you would have to do player one, and then you'd pause and do player two, and pause and do player three. This time, all 100 players can be updating simultaneously, and we can spread that load over multiple threads and CPUs, and it just works. So that was a very nice update. It bought us, I don't know. It depends on your system, but I would say 10 to 15% speed increase. And then we got a lot more high quality animation out of it because we're using Unreal 5's features for like foot IK. Foot IK is things like, if you're standing on a slope, how do you adjust the legs so that they look natural, that type of thing. So that was great, and it's fully networked and it's supported, and we can run with it, and we're going off that. The other thing is that we are doing an animation system that's dedicated to the swarmers, and the swarmers are the knee biters, right? So let me just jump into the build here, and these are the swarmers. And originally, these are the boxes. If you play the current demo and you call down a thumper encounter, you're shooting at boxes. Well, the boxes will be replaced with these guys. And these guys are um, they're meant to basically overrun you. They're the cannon fodder of the encounter. So one challenge we had was we could only render like 3 waves of 6 of these guys at once, and even with them just being cubes, we were having a lot of issues. So a lot of R&D that we've done has been how do we get more of these guys on screen so that we can actually have them kind of like that horde shooter feeling, that Starship Troopers feeling. How do we get a lot of these guys animating? And so we had to do a lot of research because it wasn't obvious how to do it. But luckily, we got a tremendous amount of time and R&D into this, and we have 3 different ways that we can potentially speed these guys up and have a lot more on the screen. One of them has to do with just baking their animations. Another one has to do with sharing their animations. And so that if you've got 10 of these guys running on the screen, you're not calculating it individually for all 10. You're kind of calculating it for one and just sharing that across the other 9. And then the third kind of Hail Mary technique is using Niagara, which is a particle system in Unreal, and treating these guys not as individual monsters, but as a swarm of particles. And that gets you an insane amount of swarmers, more than we would ever need. We've had demos running with like 10,000 or so. And I wanted to show you that today, but we were so hectic just getting all the streaming stuff set up, and this morning, I was just trying to get the basics loaded and streaming for you that we weren't able to do that. But we will do another chief chat, and I will show you, what we can do with the different ways of animating these guys. Now, once you do animations for them, and you're like, okay, I can animate a bunch of them, you still have another problem, and that problem is, well, how do you network them? How do you make sure that they're in the same position on every player's screen? Because that information has to be shared. That information has to be relayed to every single player, and it's got to stay in sync. And so that's a big challenge that we're working on. We actually have a call tomorrow between Harry and our new animation programmer and myself, and we're going to be brainstorming some ways that we might be able to tackle the networking issues. So I can't tell you yet how many of these guys will be on screen, but I can tell you it'll be a lot more than the current Thumper encounter with the boxes. So once we have these guys networked and running around in the game, we can start to build the true encounter. And that's the theme you're going to see is that we are basically porting everything we learned from Unreal 4 version of the demo into Unreal 5 on a clean slate, right? We're taking our source code, we're bringing it over, and we're modifying it to run in Unreal 5 with our new animation systems, and we're taking the opportunity to clean up a lot of the old stuff. Because what we were building before was a demo, but we've sort of transitioned from that and said, listen, we don't want to have to, we want to add more features, but we don't want to have to go back and say this was demo code. It's not the way it's going to be. Let's go ahead and rewrite. It's like, let's build the actual game. And so that's a shift in philosophy. And we're no longer building a demo. We're actually building the code and the assets that we're going to ship for the game. So there's no redo. We bite the bullet ahead of time, and when we do the playable mock-up that you guys will play, that's going to be the game code. We're not going to have to stop and say, well, that was great, that was a demo, and now we're going to write the real game. It's like, no, this is actually going forward as if we were approaching it for the game. And we learned a lot from the prior demos that we are now applying to the current code base. So you have, much cleaner code. It's architected in a way that's expandable. We can easily add features not easily. It's always hard. More easily add features as we go along so that we can expand the game, and what you see is actually going to be developed into the full game. It's not smoke and mirrors anymore. So that is the philosophical change here. And in one of them is the Tsihu here. You notice that they're a lot taller than regular humans. Not quite twice as tall, but pretty big. And we're currently animating them. They won't appear in huge swarms like the swarmers, but there'll be enough of them. And they're sort of like the bosses that guide these guys. Like they'll point, and the swarmers will go in that direction. They're the beast masters of the enemy race in Ember. And they have some physics going on. These dangly jewelry bits that are on the body, the cloth that's on their body, all that stuff gets animated, and they're going to be animated sort of in between. The swarmers use a very sort of efficient code that their animation quality might be slightly compromised because they're
Oh,
only going to run at like
Grumps,
60 FPS of animation. Yep.
Grumps. I think we're having a technical issue because I don't think any of us can see what's being pulled up.
This whole time. Yeah, why didn't you tell me earlier?
Mine was so far lagging behind that I just thought it needed to catch up. It finally catches up. I can't
Oh
see
my
it.
gosh. Fine.
Yeah, same for
Okay.
me, I thought it was lag.
All right. Well, okay, rewind. So now we're working on the Tihu animation, and we've got the swarmers here. And the other thing that we've been working on is scale. We have to create um a whole world. Now I'm kind of thrown off. You guys have completely. Is everything working? I'm just gonna pause here. Can you guys see? I want to make sure that everything's running before we go ahead here. Let me pop into.
I'm seeing chat from about 5 minutes ago on Twitch, so
Same, same issue on my end. Just like epic lag going on.
Okay, I don't know what's up with the internet. Let's stop the stream and start it again. Yeah, there's something wrong with my OBS setup. It's not letting me access hardware features of encoding, and it is choking on the upload even though I've reduced the bandwidth. And it's still stopping the stream. It's like struggling right now. Also, the internet just got upgraded for the neighborhood like 2 nights ago. So, I don't know what they did, but I have to check to see if our upstream capability is working. All right, I'm gonna start the stream again. Try Kick. No, it's not Twitch versus Kick. It's basically the stream here.
Okay, we can see it now. All right.
yay.
I'm gonna try to move. Okay, now it's green here. Close this out. All right, can you see now? Okay, now the networking is reporting that it's okay. All right, how's the lag? No buffering yet. Oh, it just suddenly tanked. So it was green and now it's dropped to like 0 kilobits. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to talk to our internet provider because it's not happy right now. Yes, I am on Wi-Fi, Scoop, but I've always been on Wi-Fi and we've never had a problem until now. Anyways, so the other thing we've been working on are blockouts of the vehicles in the game. And what you're looking at here, first of all, is the rover, which you guys are probably familiar with. And we've actually blocked it out complete with interiors. So you can get up in there. And we do this so that we can judge the sort of like the final size that the vehicle would have to be for everything to work. And you can see it's quite massive. This is what I call real scale, right? Like a lot of games fudge it and they don't make the vehicles to actual scale. If they had actual interiors, if they actually functioned in the world. And what we wanted to do was to sort of like have the vehicles reflect the real scale. This is that quality of immersiveness I talk about that Star Citizen has. Not that we're making a Star Citizen type game, but in terms of the scale of everything just working. And when you have mechs and they're really tall, like they'll look correct alongside these guys. And then we have the dropship. What if the dropship had to be real scale? And what you're seeing here is a block out of what the size of a standard dropship is. The Founders dropship looks different. It's what you see in the game now. It's what you see on the backer packs. This would be the standard edition. And you notice that we've sort of unified the looks, that all the standard mechs, all the standard rovers, and the standard dropships share the same design language. And they're real scale. So this is what happens. This is how big a dropship would have to be to actually carry a thumper mech and have room up here for the pilots and such. And we're still working out this area here. This is all to sort of figure out where to put the doors, how big to make the hangar. And this hangar bay is actually modular, by the way. That's a theme here. So that you can have you can carry a thumper, or you might carry 2 heavy mechs. Same thing with the rover. This rear compartment here, that's also modular. So you can equip different modules on there, potentially gunner platforms, things like that, or mech carriers, depending on the role and the need. And so we use these blockouts to judge the design, and they're obviously low poly. They're not meant to be anything except a depiction of their scale and orientation. And once we approve and are happy with the size and the layout of the white box phase, then it's worth going to the high poly and actually modeling them. Now, for the demo, we don't anticipate that the dropship and the rover will be ready for the demo. But our focus is on the thumper encounter as well as fighting a mini kaiju. You guys have heard me talk about that. Like, what is the focus of the demo? The focus of the demo is definitely on what you do in the game. And so on that end, I've been thinking a lot about um, the core gameplay loops, right? And how resource gathering and thumping is an important one. But I also talked about the challenges of that in a demo setting where if people are mining resources and fighting waves of creatures that come at them, they're not getting a full picture of the game. The other part of the game is hunting kaiju. And so I think we need to make sure that we have a kaiju encounter in there of some kind where you can go and hunt kaiju. So that's the other thing that we're doing. And again, we're going to build these like we're building them for the game. Um, off the new code base and everything else. So you're going to see more daily updates from us. You're going to see more progress as we finish up these guys' animation systems and we're able to network them. The next step is we're able to start creating encounters with them. But the first thing we got to do is get them animating and behaving in the right ways so that we can cluster them together for encounters. And the one thing that I would like to do is I'd actually like to release the white box prototypes of the dropship and the rover for you guys, along with the heavy mechs. We have blockouts of the heavy mechs too. So I'd like to just drop you guys the current, either the current build or a white box double like this, where you guys can walk around and give us feedback on the scale of these vehicles, and we'll give you a way to get in and out of them too. So right now, if I want to get in and out of them, I'm gonna just have to move the spawn point. So just gonna have to move this guy over here. To show you what the interior looks like. I like a way for you guys to run around this build and just see what's going on and get your guys' feedback. So again, you can see real scale. We've got a break room here. We have bunks, and of course the cockpit area. And we're working on the view, making sure you have good visibility of what's in front of you. And this is what you'd use for convoy gameplay when you're convoying resources to other bases or other zones in the game. That's the idea for that. And again, the idea is that this is to scale. Like we want it to feel real and immersive in the world. We have a very big world. We can do a lot with it. And to make it more immersive, I think having a real scale like this makes a huge difference. All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions. Wait. No, I changed my mind. I have some questions. Yeah, stream is 2 minutes behind. We're gonna work on the stream. This is sort of our inaugural debug session, which is why I didn't tweet it out or anything. I knew something would go technically wrong. It's been a long time since we've done chief chats, and I wanted to make sure that we knew what the problems were and solve them before we do a bigger crowd stream. So one question I have for you guys is, would you like to see the return of raffles to chief chat? Or would you rather just have updates A lot of you, or and the reason I ask is a lot of you already have packs. Assume that you're going to get an update no matter what. Do raffles just make it better? Okay, some people are saying don't do them in the beginning. They take up a lot of time. Because I can add raffle functionality back into our OPAI. Oh, and that's the other thing we're doing, by the way, is with Aluna, our OPAI. She handles a lot of Discord now, and she actually is based off a custom profile that we created for ChatGPT. And if you want to talk to her, there's a dedicated channel where you can ask her questions, and she knows basic lore about the game, but she also makes stuff up. ChatGPT is very interesting. It never wants to say it doesn't know. It likes to always answer. It's very willing and helpful to tell you what you want to hear. And so you can get it to say just about anything. And that's an issue. And we did that a while ago as a sort of an experiment for how do we do NPC interaction in the game, right? How do we do OPAI? And more than that. So, that's the obvious application. It's like, okay, how can we harness the power of ChatGPT to make our OPAIs in the game something that you can actually converse with? And that's fairly promising, but it's got challenges with you can get them to say anything, they'll hallucinate about the world. It's very difficult to sort of like get them contained to the actual lore and facts of the world. It's very, very nebulous thing. And you can social engineer your way around that pretty easily. You don't have to be a programmer or anything. You can sort of like trick it into saying whatever and talking about whatever you want to talk about. So that's one possible application, and I don't know if we'll go forward with it because of the challenges, as I mentioned. But if you want to test out what we have, you can go into the Aluna channel and you can try her out there. And we'll be continuing to see if we can rein her in and get her to be a more consistent character. So if you want, I'll occasionally post updates where I'll have Aluna updated, and then I'll have you guys jump in and talk to her, and you can try. But there's more applications for ChatGPT than just NPC characters, right? Um, Maybe it's not entirely obvious, but ChatGPT can generate structured code, structured events very well. So this, you've heard how you can program in ChatGPT. Well, I mean, it has issues, it has errors, it programs at kind of like a junior level, and you have to go in and fix everything that it does. But it's actually pretty good when you give it a very narrowed structured data cases. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like if you wanted to sort of format data into a JSON format, which is a format web programmers like to use for representing data, it's really good at that. And it doesn't make many mistakes at all. And it can understand what you're trying to achieve and give you all sorts of useful information and format it correctly that in a way that another computer can read. So what does that mean for Ember? Well, one possibility is you remember I've talked about how Firefall was really focused on an AI director creating events for you, and how the Holy Grail was a game that sort of like created content on the fly. Well, it's possible to do that now with something like ChatGPT. If we can train a model to generate encounters, and we can say, hey, here's what you have to work with. You've got swarmers, you've got sea humanoids, you've got X and Y bosses. Put together an encounter for that. It's possible to have ChatGPT generate that encounter and then for the world server to sort of like plop it into place right in front of you. And it'd be an event that you've never seen before. It'd be completely unique. It'd be a one off. And I think that would be pretty cool. So that's another area that we're going to explore that I think is perhaps more promising than doing NPCs with ChatGPT. I mean, everyone's doing NPCs with ChatGPT. That works to a degree, but you can really break immersion quite easily. We'll see what we can do. But in terms of the structured data stuff, it actually would sort of stay on the rails better and would actually be able to generate an encounter, maybe spit it out into a JSON format. Our server would read that JSON format and create a dynamic encounter for you. So that is one thought. Quest lines are difficult, with ChatGPT because of its tendency to hallucinate and to make stuff up. It can really get off the rails pretty quickly. So that's a challenge with it too. And when I say ChatGPT, I don't literally mean ChatGPT by OpenAI. There's many language models out there now that you can even run on your own PC that allow you to customize it in different ways and are nearly as good as ChatGPT or even better in some very narrow specific areas. So there's a lot of ways, a lot to experiment with, and I think AI is just going to explode games everywhere, and so it's something that we should play around with in research because it has huge implications, especially for what Firefall was trying to do with creating endless dynamic content for you with a game director rather than a bunch of pre-canned encounters. And with Firefall, the idea was like, well, we don't have real AI, so we're going to do pre-canned encounters, but they're going to interact in interesting ways, and the server will determine where and when they spawn, depending on some AI heuristics of a game director. But now we go further and well, the game director is going to be true AI and it's going to be paying attention to you like we wanted to do for Firefall and making sure that you are entertained by generating encounters for you. And those encounters will be complete, unique, sort of one offs that are generated that you might never see again. Or if we like them, maybe you can rate them at the end and we'll save them off as a template to use again. That would be interesting and not very, it's not a huge research project because let's face it, the AI does so much for you that what we're really doing is just sort of evaluating the suitability of AI to generate these encounters. Do they generate good encounters or do they generate bad encounters? Is it possible to get them to, generate mostly good encounters or nearly always good encounters so that we're not giving our players a bad experience? It's more of that. We're not writing a bunch of technology. We're taking existing technology and evaluating it to see if we can use it. Just like we evaluate it for NPCs, right? And we're like, okay, there's some challenges here. We're not sure we're going to use it for NPCs because it tends to lie, it hallucinate, make stuff up, and get you off lore really quick. It can be socially engineered, yada yada yada. So uh, think of it that way. That we're not trying to tackle create God AI for games or anything like that. It's like no, we're taking off the shelf AI and saying what can we use here? What can we adapt the technology to, or is it not ready yet? Is it not suitable? The main technical, and it's very important to keep control of how much new technology you're trying to do with a game. So that's not one that I really want to rabbit hole down because I think it's got some immense promise, sure, but that's not our focus. Our focus is creating a game that you can play as soon as you can, and in a fun, playable state. But I think the one challenge we are going to focus on is can we get a lot of units on the screen? Because that was always the original intent of Firefall during the invasions to have you have this Starship Trooper like feeling. And I actually went and I played the recent Starship Troopers game, and I was like, yeah, yeah, that horde shooter feeling. It would be great to get that in Starship Troopers, as great as that horde feeling is, they're using some tricks there, like rapidly respawning waves and things like this. And you know, I'd like to see if we can push it a little more. So the one area of technical focus we have is getting these swarmers to sort of be massive AI, to be networked, to be able to get a lot of them on screen to give you that feeling of being swarmed. And if you've ever watched um, the opening of the StarCraft 2 expansion cinematic, where you see the invasion of the city and all the Zerglings running through. That's kind of the feeling I'd like to get. Now, we may not get there, but that's the one technical battle we've sort of picked, and tomorrow is our first real meeting about how to possibly approach that from the network side. We have a lot of interesting possibilities from the animation side to keep that efficient, but scaling that up and making it real for the game, that's going to be the technical challenge. And that'll be our main thing. It's like, hey, if we can get that invasion feeling, Embers, a huge part of Ember, the invasions that go on, it would be great if we could get that horde shooter type feeling and have it run on a reasonable machine. All right, I kind of went down further than I planned to, but it is time for questions for you guys. And thank you for being so patient through all the technical issues that we've been having. It's tough getting the stream started again, but once we get back into the rhythm, we're gonna have these every 2 weeks once the technical issues are solved, and we'll start doing regular chief chats again because it's time. All right, so it sounds like raffles are good, especially if we get more new people in here. And that's going to be another focus is getting new people in here, doing sort of like little video updates on Twitter and social media. Story time with Grums, where I do a reading. Did you guys like that? And we can do more story time. The book chapters are going to be redrafted to reflect the core gameplay loops. I realize that they don't really incorporate the gameplay loops right now, and I think when you write a book for a game, that it should reflect kind of what the game experience is going to be. So as we do that, could do readings of it for story time. Tarnished Reaper asks, "Is there ultra wide support?" Yeah, the demo currently should support ultra wide. If it doesn't, let us know because I know Harry put a lot of work into that. And then the second question was using Archon Shifter Arc Leech discount on packs and skins. Now I'm not sure what that means. If you mean the discount you get with the commander coins, that's for the in-game store later on. It doesn't apply to starter packs. Aside from that, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Okay. And Freelanders ask, is the old Thumpering demo still working? Yes, it is. You can still call down Thumpers and play around with that in the current build. And if you're getting a new PC, it should be fine until we add a bunch of players. That's when the real challenge is because we spawn more and more enemies. Up to 4 players. So you can experience what it's like just 4. You don't have to get 100 in there to see the lag issues that I'm talking about. Quadrana asks, is home still going to happen? Yes, home will happen. We'll start with a blockout. And you're going to see a bunch of blockouts in the game. It's a way of quickly iterating size, scale, all that stuff. The focus is on the pilots. The current demo has been the medium omniframe, but we're going to be shifting our mental framework so that you have pilots, which are the characters, male and female, that walk around home, that can wear the cosmetics and things. And then the idea is that they put on armor and they become either light frames, medium frames, or they climb into a vehicle like a heavy mech. So you're going to see all 3 types. Remember, we were only going to have the medium frame for the demo, but we're actually going to have the light frame, and then you're going to be able to get into a medium frame, and then you're going to be able to climb into a heavy mech. That is the goal now. And again, the demo code just assumed you were a medium omniframe. It just sort of like it was all hard coded in there. It just sort of assumed that that's what you were, and those were your movement abilities and everything else. And now we're going towards the real framework. It's like, no, you start off as a pilot, and then you put on armor or you get into vehicles to take on different capabilities. And so the whole code base got refactored. We took the old code and we went in and rearranged everything to be more flexible and cleaner. So to allow us to do that. Will our out of frame character model be used at all? Yes, you'll be on home out of frame and you'll be able to get in and out. You can get in and out in the current demo. And what OS are we going to support? Well, uh, no Windows XP. I know there's some who's holding out. Like I know there were like 3 people in the Ember community that are like, I run Windows XP and I really need Ember to run on Windows XP. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. We've kind of moved on. I'd like to support Windows 10. Yeah, there were like 3 people that were like XP diehards. Windows 98. Windows 3.1. Linux. Actually, we're looking at Linux. It's a support nightmare, though. The problem with having an official Linux build is that you get a lot of customer support calls from people and emails from people that don't know much about Linux, and getting a game to run on it can sometimes be complicated. And we really can't afford to spend a lot of time and resources walking people through Linux problems and diagnosing operating system issues. That's always been the problem with supporting Linux games officially. But I can tell you that internally, one thing that we have that's new that we didn't have before is that there's now a daily build system. So whatever we have for the game from no 0 days or whatever in the main branch gets automatically built every night and a server deployed, so we can jump in and experience it, and we don't have to wake Harry up at 3 a.m. to do a build. Anyone can trigger a build. It runs in the cloud on Amazon, does the build, it copies it out. So that's awfully nice. And the reason I mention that is that we currently do a Linux build. There's a Linux build that's part of that. No one ever runs it. It's not been tested. Potentially, it would be a little bit better for something like the Steam Deck, which is Linux native. But no one's tested any of this. It was just sort of like, oh, it's easy enough to turn it on and spit out a Linux build. Let's give it a try anyways. The servers are Linux though. That's one reason we do a Linux build, is that the servers run on Linux because they're just a lot. In my experience in MMOs, Linux servers they're a lot friendlier and a lot more robust than Windows servers for hosting MMOs. Oh, Sai says we have a Steam Deck person and a big Linux guy. We do. We have one of the, or at least he used to work at Red Hat as an engineer, and he has run the game on Linux before. But again, he's pretty much an expert, and he said it was pretty easy. I don't know what that means or what the bar is. All right, let's see. I'm scrolling through the questions here. Don't see too many. I'm coming up on 12 o'clock here. I'm going to try to keep this update to just about an hour. Tarnish Reaper says, sorry, follow up to previous question about Archon and such discounts. Yeah, meant the discount. Will it ever apply to the store before launch? And our plans to allow it to use in combo with promos like the July 4th discount. Tarnish Reaper, no. That discount only applies if you have Commander coins. They give you in-store discounts. And what that means is at the launch of the game, those discounts take effect for whatever's in the general store. They do not currently stack or apply to the backer stuff. Okay, we answered the Linux question. Will we get cooking in game? Asked Shelly. I love food. That'd be fun. That's all I'll say. I'm not committing to cooking in Ember. I'm committed to getting playable builds into your guys' hands again. Uh, Getting our new code framework up and running so that we can create encounters, so that we can create home, that we can get going on all of this stuff. That's the focus. Uh, Cooking, fishing, all that. Those are nice to haves, and you're tapping into areas that are some of my favorite side things to do in games. But that's a nice to have. It's not our focus. You want to cook kaiju stew? That'd be pretty cool. It's very Monster Hunter-y too. Using it, if there was a gameplay reason for it, and Monster Hunter is food as buffs, but I don't think that makes sense in a mech game so much. MS-DOS support. Okay, we're getting to the realm of silly here. Are we going to keep up to date with UE5? So UE 5 point Is it 5.3 that's coming up? Because I think 5.2 is out officially now, and we're on 5.1 right now. But 5.3 actually has, and I hope I have the version number right, significant frame rate improvement. Like they did some magic. And what I'm hearing from other Unreal devs is a significant increase in speed. So that would be worth it. If there is a huge frame rate increase, then that's something we'd definitely be interested for. As far as Nanite, well, Nanite's gotten a lot faster, and we've learned how to use it in a more performant way. We're actually going to be evaluating Nanite for everything, just as a way to draw every single mesh, static mesh in the game. Because even if you don't use a gazillion polys to model something, in some cases, Nanite can be faster than using the traditional render pipeline, traditional static meshes. Sorry. So that's something we have to look at and evaluate. We don't know if that's true yet. Once we build some tests with our static meshes, we'll check it out. Another thing that's good for is destruction. Apparently, if you need to render a lot of stuff and destroy a lot of stuff, instant nanite static meshes are very fast. There's another programmer that I follow on Twitter who is doing massive little cities that you can destroy with a sort of superhero, Superman type figure. And I've been talking to him about it, and he just raves about how efficient instant static meshes are in Nanite. So when we get to bases, that's the guy I'm definitely going to hit up for ideas on that. Omni Man. Yes, if you play current build of Satisfactory, there are nanite meshes in that, and you'll notice because they don't have pop-in anymore on the distance. One thing that nanite does is LODs go away, level of detail. You know how it would draw a low poly version way off in the distance, and then it would pop to a higher res version. That's all gone. Nanite's sort of like seamless, and it will go on forever till it's just a pixel on the horizon, and you don't have to set up anything. You don't have to do a lot of technical stuff. It all just works. So that's very appealing for long landscapes where you can just see for miles and miles and miles. So yeah, that's nanite's becoming a reality, and I'm glad that we went early in on that, and this rig here has enough RAM that we can handle nanite mesh editing. And even while our initial nanite experiments weren't that promising, the technology's just gotten a lot better since then, and it's something that we're definitely looking into. Plus, the speed bump that you get with the next version of Unreal is pretty significant. We were pretty early to nanite, and we're early to Chat GPT and everything else. We've kind of been ahead of the curve there. So that's I don't think we've ever been shy of trying out the new stuff that's there. Doesn't mean it'll make it in, but it's something we're constantly evaluating. Gamma says, I want to see an Ember four-legged omniframe, so maybe not for battle, but for logistics or construction. Yeah, I hear that a lot, that people want to see, for the heavy mechs, like um, wild ways to configure them. And I'm actually entertaining that. I think that that's a core of the game, customizable mechs, light frames, heavy, medium frames, heavy frames. So I can't promise you anything except that yeah, that's on my mind, and it's important to the game, more important than food or fishing or anything like that. So that's something we're seriously looking at. Space trucking. Well, we've got the mock up here, the white box of the truck. We need to finalize the scale and the interiors, and then we'll go from there. I think it's missing the engine room right now, though. Let's well, this is the engine room here, but I don't think there's a good way to get to it yet. So remember that heavy frame. One thing I want to talk about is heavy frame was a stretch goal for subscribers. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, then we would do the heavy frame for the demo. I think the heavy frame is actually really important, especially with the popularity of Armored Core 6 coming up. We really want to show that. We're hovering right around 1,001 subscribers right now, and that That to me is like kind of like the danger zone because it's 1,000 and up that we get a heavy frame that we do the work for it. So if you are not currently a subscriber and you would like to see heavy frames, please consider renewing your subscription or joining us so that we can achieve that goal. I'll just put that out there. I'd like to build a buffer in. I'd like to get to about 1,200 subs. Oh, there is a new skin coming, by the way, and we will also, like I said, there'll be new book drafts as I sort of redraft the chapters to reflect the core gameplay loops of thumping, resource gathering, and fighting kaiju and the invasions. So if you subscribe to us, you'll get more updates on that, as well as the skins. And we have a new skin coming up here in about a week. Ri- Rihanna Keeves asks, "Is it a CSR skin?" No, it won't be a CSR skin this time around. The CSR skins, they used to get a lot of traction, but now it's like it's about even with everything else. All right, guys. Thank you for another Chief Chat and for your patience through all the technical issues. We will be debugging our networking and our video encoding to make sure that we are streaming properly. We've got some issues going on here. But this has been very good to see you guys again. I'm really happy to have the gang back together and to be talking to you guys. And we're going to see you again in 2 weeks. All right. And in 2 weeks, I want to show you the experiments on the swarmers, and I want to show you the experiments on the Tihu that we have with the new animation systems we're creating. And those animation systems, we're making good progress. I think the main Tihu is going to be complete here in the next month, and I think that we'll continue to work on the player character. Harry, unfortunately, has been out a little bit. Um, you know, uh, some real life stuff cropped up and has to go handle that. But we hope that that'll get sorted soon, and then we can get back onto the player character with the pilot focus. We do have a meeting tomorrow to go over how we network a lot of swarmers together on screen. But in 2 weeks, I will show you what we have for progress. All right, everybody. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.
Guys, I just want to say thank you for still being here, joining us after a bit of a quiet streak here. They've been working behind the scenes, as you know. The devs have not given up, and we're still coming. Grums is kicking butt behind the scenes. The Node Zero days has been pretty cool in terms of letting you know what's what when it comes. So stay tuned, stay faithful. We love you. Until next time. Deep strike!